Hey everybody, it's Matthew Seville with SLR Lounge, and today I am excited to talk to you about a brand new filter system from the folks at Polar Pro, the Summit Landscape Filter Kit. If you shoot landscape photography, or especially if you shoot video of any kind or time-lapse photography, then you definitely need to know about square and graduated neutral density filters. Why? Because if you're shooting traditional photography, you could bracket or HDR your shots. But if you're shooting video or time-lapse, then you've got to fit the dynamic range of your scene into a single exposure. And that is where the Summit Landscape Kit comes into play. It's Polar Pro's first square filter system, which means you now have access to graduated neutral density filters for holding back the highlights in especially dynamic scenes. Well, I finally found some peace and quiet. Actually, the birds here are pretty loud. I'm at a wildlife sanctuary, but there are some beautiful clouds moving through the sky. So I want to quickly demonstrate two things for you. I want to show you how to use a graduated neutral density filter to hold back highlights in the sky. Then I want to show you how to use a solid, very, very dark ND filter to do a single long exposure that captures the cloud's movement within a single click. All right, let's get started. The first thing that I notice about the Summit system is just how easy it is overall to operate. If you're shooting in active conditions and the light is changing really fast, then 3 filters all at once can be very cumbersome and frustrating. But with the way the holder is designed, all of the guesswork is taken out. Everything has its place. What I mean by that is, you've got the main lockdown knob that controls the rotation and unlocks this. Then behind it is the polarizer. I just leave that in there the whole time though. Once you've got this locked down, you got the top locking knob, controls the graduated filters, and it won't fall out the bottom because it's got a hard stop. Then the same thing with the solid ND filter. You've got the lower locking knob. It's got a bump stop, so you just slide it in all the way and you know you won't have any light leaks. And last but not least, the polarizer's got its operation smooth rotating right here. It just makes everything super easy to use all at once.
Here's what it looks like when I rotate the polarizer. It's really darkening that sky real nice, giving me the dark blue on the water as well. And then here's what the graduated filter is doing up top. I probably don't need much graduated filter, just a little bit of darkening at the very top of the image. Lock it down right there. And then the dark ND filter is a 10 stop. It's right here. If you see, that's what it would look like if I want to shoot at a 30th of a second, so I need that 10 stop. If I didn't have it, I'd be at a really high shutter speed or a really, really dark aperture. I want the shallow depth of field and I want my shutter speed to match for my frame rate of my video. And this is looking really cool. All right, now that we got our setup dialed in, let's go get in position for these awesome clouds.
All right, I framed my shot for a very long exposure, but I want to switch ND filters to as dark of a filter as possible. The Summit Kit comes with a 6-stop ND, but they also have a 16-stop ND that I'm going to switch out to here, and it is going to be pretty much a bulb or a 30-second long exposure here in broad daylight with sunlight on these clouds. So let's dial in our exposure and let me show you how that's done. Now you want to frame your shot without the ND filter in so that you can actually see what you're doing and focus, frame the edges of the shot perfectly, then drop the dark ND filter into the slot. Once you've gotten that, all you have to do is set your exposure. And to do that, I like to use a trick called the ISO 6400 trick, basically, which means if you shoot an exposure at ISO 6400 and it's 1 second, that would give you a 1 minute long exposure at ISO 100, because 1 second to 1 minute and ISO 6400 to 100 is the same number of stops. So let's try that and see how it works. Okay, it looks like if I'm at ISO 6400 and f5.6 aperture, then a 2 second long exposure is what I need to get a perfect histogram. That means that if I take my ISO from 6400 to 100, I can take my shutter speed from 2 seconds to 2 minutes. And I know that if this histogram is perfect at the high ISO, then the histogram at ISO 100 will also be perfect. That's the trick, knowing that you'll get the perfect exposure on your first long exposure try. All right, let's do this and see how it looks. One thing I really love about the Canon mirrorless cameras is that all of their bulb timers have a built-in timer. So you just go into the menu, say, hey, I want 2 minutes, and it counts it up right here on the LCD. I don't gotta do anything. Works really nicely. Set on a 2 second timer and you've got a perfect shake-free shot. That looks pretty cool. Let's try a 4 minute exposure at f8. Okay, thank you Polar Pro for sending me this filter kit and for sponsoring this video so that I could give my feedback. I'm very excited as a landscape photographer, a time-lapse and video shooter about the overall simplified use. It's just so effortless in the field. And of course the durable build quality and the image quality is looking great so far. Looking at the back of the camera, I don't see any color cast. There's great sharpness for sure. You probably know better than I do about any color cast since you've already seen most of this video. And that's about it. The only drawback I can think of is all that durable build quality does make the kit a little bit heavier than most other square filter setups. It is, however, pretty competitively priced compared to other square filter kits. The Summit Landscape system will be just $599 initially for 1 week after their launch. You'll get not only the mounting bracket and holder and a hood, but you'll also get a polarizer, a 6-stop solid ND filter, plus a soft 2-stop graduated ND. If you miss that initial price, the Landscape kit with all the filters will be $699. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Turn on the notifications. I'm Matt Seville, and I'll see you on my next adventure.